let's get into the next little bit and on early season races, setting expectations for those races and then racing in the base phase. I want to go over all three of those things because Ivy, your season is in the fall and into the winter because cyclocross is your main focus. So can you kick us off on this in terms of, but you've also raced pro road seasons, mountain bike seasons, you've done tons of different stuff. So you've had this chance to be able to pick early season races and do that.
Yeah.
What's the point of early season racing in your mind?
Well, now I do not feel like there is a point for me. I've made a lot of mistakes and done early season races in the base phase. And it was always so stressful on a road team as well when a lot of our rosters were determined and based upon really early season team camps and early season training races, where it was, this is a training race. Don't worry. No, it's not. Like you are picking our rosters. So that was so stressful. But now for me, I feel like racing in the base season does something to me psychologically in a negative way that could outweigh any of those performance benefits or gains that I could make. So what I will do in like later base phases, or in base season is do fast group race rides, where I can still get some of those race intensity efforts if I feel like it, or I can just surf in and not feel any of that race pressure, and then not contemplate my entire self-worth and involvement in the sport. And if I should continue on because I had such a bad performance in base season, which I know I should not put any weight into, but we're so hard athletes, not to. You have to. So
yeah,
that's my new protocols. I do not register for races in my base season.
We're getting a lot of questions from athletes about like racing in the base season. It's normal because lots of you listen to this are in the base season, and then there's these races that pop up. So Ivy's perspective is one. Does anybody else have a different perspective to Ivy's that they want to share? I have one for sure, but does anybody else view early season races differently?
I use them as, I guess, everything besides racing. Like the racing is kind of the outcome, but like this year with Lifetime Series, the biggest change for me is racing gravel. So I found some local Grasshopper Series races that are gravel races, but kind of just show up with what I got and race. But for me, it's like get used to the gravel bike, like race a gravel race and kind of learn maybe things that seem obvious to most gravel racers, but I haven't learned yet. So that by the time I get to like Tusher or, Bentonville at the end of the year, that I feel confident racing a gravel bike. So for me, it's just kind of a fun way to get used to the new bike and new discipline.
Yeah. Amber, how about you? I mean, you probably have what Ivy said, which was like these early season races in air quotes that are actually very much slotting in for the team roster, but
tryouts.
Were there any other things that you looked to gain from an early season race?
Yeah. And I think hearing Ivy's answer and Alex's answer highlights probably the crux of the issue is managing expectations. So some people are better at this than others. And I don't say that like, Alex, you're really good at this, and Ivy, you're terrible. It is genuinely hard. And this is something to know about yourself. And I think, Ivy, you're so wise about this, because if this is, if you know that you'll come away from an early season race with a hit to your confidence in a way that's going to be hard to come back from, it's smart to not do that to yourself. I mean, especially when you could racing usually takes away from training, right? Because you're going to have a couple days of resting or travel going into it. You're going to have to recover after it. So if the trade-off is, hey, I'm going to go do this race and possibly take a hit to my confidence and miss out on a few days of training, that's maybe not a great trade-off. But for somebody like Alex, who's like, you know what, I can get in there and, I'm on a learning curve with gravel, and this is going to be part of my training leading up to an A race later in the season. This is actually going to be more worth my while. And that trade-off from what I might miss out on training is going to be a good thing. So that's really, I think, what everybody has to weigh for themselves. So I think if you are going to do early season racing, number one, you have to be really honest with yourself about how well you're able to manage your expectations on it. will you be able to go into this and completely let go of the result, like really truly let go of the result and not internalize that as some kind of self-doubt? And if you think you can do that, then I think early season races can be really valuable in terms of working on process goals. So if you're somebody who, for example, is new to racing and you want to race on the road, I'll speak to that because that's my area of expertise. There's a lot that you can work on in an early season training race. Positioning is a huge one, and working on drafting and trying to use as little energy in the field as possible. See how long you can stay in the group without ever touching the wind. Playing little games like that with yourself can be really, really helpful. That doesn't work well when you're on a pro team and they're looking at your results to see whether or not they're going to select you for the next race. But if you're racing on your own and you're building out a season for yourself, this is a great exercise to do because there are no expectations on you. And if you can go in with that idea of, hey, there's these specific skills that I want to work on that I can't work on in training by myself, then this is what I want to get out of it. And I'm going to feel good about that regardless of the outcome. Then there's some really, really great, really great gains to be made with early season racing.
Yeah, I struggle, Ivy, similarly. I bet most people probably do. And it's how you handle that is in one. And I really admire your approach with it. Just being like, hey, I know that it's too risky for me, so I don't do it. And I take a different approach. What I've found, and this probably will evolve and change over time. I don't know if you were always that way, Ivy. Like, I'm sure it's evolved for you over time, right? And for me, recently, I've kind of forced myself into doing early season races because it's not natural for me. I want to be like, store it all up and then one big day. That's like how I naturally just want to do it. But I've found that I race a whole lot better when I'm able to liberate myself from expectations. And that's even on my biggest days. I do better in those situations. And one thing about early season racing is it kind of forces me into that because I've now gotten to the point where I won't beat myself up over it and I won't hold myself to that. So it kind of just forces the whole thing to happen in a positive way. So I do these races and I know like, okay, I'm going to get smashed. So that's okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out here and I'm going to learn and get familiar with racing again, kind of like what Alex said, which is what Ivy accomplishes with her group rides too, which if you're fortunate to have group rides around you like that. I know Ivy, she does the short commute from Montana to Sacramento to do those. But so like, which is like a third of the way across our country, by the way, if you aren't from here. So, but if you have something like that close to you, then it's awesome just to be able to get back into it because there is something. And even like what Alex is saying, Alex is used to racing mountain bikes, but gravel is a bit different. Like the way the races unfold is different. The bike is different. The terrain is different, but also just the dynamics. So I think they can be really helpful. They can absolutely be damaging too if you end up letting them define your abilities and set your expectations moving forward. But I do encourage people to give it a shot. And one thing to keep in mind is a lot of people are asking the question, should I race in the base phase? And it's really centered around fitness is the question, not setting expectations or even talking about, periodization or anything like that, but rather fitness. Like, are these hard race efforts going to somehow hurt my base training? And one thing I would say to that is that if it makes your subsequent workouts not possible, then yes, it's hurting your training. But in most cases, it probably isn't going to be like that unless you're doing huge, big, hard events. If they're something that's shorter and something that's a bit more approachable, probably not. But that's kind of the beauty of it coming in with half-baked fitness, right, Amber? It's like, you get to, because boy, that's when you learn. You've mentioned this with your stint over in your entire career over in Europe. But when you first went over there, how you were like, wow, I feel like I don't know how to race my bike. This is an entirely different set of like rules that we're playing on in terms of how to move efficiently through a pack. But when you don't have the fitness or you feel one other way or in another way, you're handicapped, boy, that's when you learn how to race your bike.
Yeah,
Like,
it can be really valuable.
It's tough.
It can be really valuable to go into a race really tired and know that. And again, adjust your expectations. But what that does is it forces you to be extra efficient because when you have a ton of fitness, you have a lot more room to make mistakes. And you can actually end up creating some bad habits as a result. But if you race pretty consistently when you're tired, you don't have room to make those mistakes, and you have to get really, really ruthlessly efficient about when and how you use your energy in the race. And that can be really helpful in terms of training your racing tactics and your race intuition. That said, going back to what you mentioned just a little bit ago, how that can possibly be detrimental to a training plan. And I think the two big factors are travel and recovery. So if you have to spend a lot of time traveling to a race and that's going to take away from your training, that's something to consider. And then, is the race long enough or intense enough that it's going to require extra time, extra days of recovery where you could be completing part of a structured training plan? So if the race fits into your training in the sense that maybe it's nearby, you don't have a really long commute to it, you feel like you can manage those expectations, and you can be disciplined about how hard you go in that race so that you're not blowing up your entire next week of training, then it can be really beneficial. But that's a lot of ifs. So you have to be really honest with yourself about what you would be getting out of it and what those trade-offs may be for your training.
Assuming that criteria is in place, Alex, let's have you assume the position of a cross-country mountain biker. That's a common listener to this podcast, and we'll assume a handful of different scenarios.
I'll try my best.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally foreign for you. What would you look for in early season races? Like advising a typical cross-country racer, what sort of races would you be encouraging them to look to do?
When I used to do early season races, it was just local ones. Like Amber said, a lot of the time, the travel piece and all that can take away from training. So if you can find one that you can sleep at home and drive an hour or two, those are my favorite. They're also a really good vibe. Like I really enjoy those local races and seeing the community. So I think that can help alleviate some of that like anxiety. It's just like intervals with friends, so to speak. For me in XC, it was a lot about like testing tires and setup. So like use this as an opportunity to like, okay, I'm going to set my rear suspension and front suspension at this. I'm going to set my tire pressure at this. And I'm going to try my dropper post in a race or whatever it is like that you're trying to test. And then I go into it normally, I think in the TrainerRoad setup, it's like a B race. Like there is a little bit of rest and it kind of just takes the place of like an interval day in my schedule. And with that, I know like the same way I approach intervals, it's just like, I'm going to give my full effort and the result will kind of come after that. And I'm more focused on those equipment pieces. Like, how did the tires feel? Did I feel good on the descents? Like, was my positioning good? Did I hit my pedal off the start? What could I have done better next time? But without the pressure of like it being this big event. And for me, the goal is to kind of get those like quote unquote stupid mistakes out of the way, and then also dial in any new equipment or anything that I've changed year to year.
Yeah. And if you're a mountain biker and you have road events by you, I'd consider circuit races or crits if you have such liberty to choose, rather than big, long road races. Because I find that circuit races in particular are great for mountain bikers. Crits can be good, but many times the most efficient rider wins a crit. So it's a really different fitness profile than mountain biking, like very, very different. So you could learn something about that, and you can learn pack dynamics, which is really helpful on mountain bikes just to, the best mountain bikers keep that present when they're racing. They aren't just going out and riding solo the whole time. So that's what I'd recommend for mountain bikers on the road. What about on the road side? Ivy, is there, would there be specific sort of events or anything else that you would encourage a road racer to target, whether it be like time trials, road races, circuit races, crits, or maybe a different discipline like gravel? I don't know. What would you recommend for a road racer trying to find early season races?
That's a good question. I think it depends upon what kind of rider you are, right? So if you race a lot of crits in the summer and that's the kind of rider you are, and you don't have to dig into some deep well of peak fitness to get out of the saddle a few times, and you feel like it would be a good refresher in your base season to do a circuit race or a crit, do it. If you're like a climber or a stage race person and you're just starting your base season and there's a local crit, maybe
maybe not ideal.
Yeah. And while I say that I normally don't race in the base season anymore. That's subject to change, right? Like there are more a broader variation of races that we can do that are available to us now that weren't before, like gravel racing. And I've sworn up and down that I will never do a gravel race, but people change, things can change. That would be
I thought you
do
raced short
grasshopper,
circuit
Ivy?
gravel.
What's that?
I thought you raced short circuit gravel.
Short circuit.
Oh yeah.
No, no.
Yeah, wait, I did.
Yeah. Track lacrosse is the actual name here. But Ivy, does that mean you're going to do a grasshopper?
When is a
You're going to be in
grasshopper?
Sacramento. There are gravel races that happen in NorCal early season.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's
right.
where Alex will be. Sorry, I thought you were hinting at that. I don't want to. I'm not putting you on the spot. No.
Please don't come beat me, Ivy.
Well, if I'm in my base season and I feel like it's a discipline that's enough far out of reach for me that I won't have any sort of performance expectations, there's not a lot of travel to it, something like that, I would incorporate into my base season, maybe, because I wouldn't look at that as a race. It would just be an opportunity to have supported extended base / tempo miles with friends.
Yeah.
That's what Jen does actually. For her like ultras, like she'll have her 100K or 100 miler in the year, but like for her 50-mile training days, she'll find a race, but just because it has all the aid stations. So it's like logistically easier for her to run 50 miles with somebody else taking care of the snacks. So I thought that was pretty smart.
That's
Outsource
really
the
it.
snacks.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
really
Outsource
it.
the snacks.
Let the snacks lead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm personally of the opinion that it's not like there's a time that it's too early to race in your season, as long as the things that we've talked about with managing expectations and getting something productive out of it comes from that. It can be really motivating too. If a lot of athletes will be in, who knows, their 11th year of training, and you feel like you're kind of on Groundhog Day with like, okay, it's the same thing again. Here we go. And sometimes adding in a race like that can be really fun and motivating and re-spark your joy that you have for riding bikes and for training and for the whole process that you're going to go through. So I never think that there is a too early to race in the season. It just has to be right for you. So ask yourself if it's what you need and if it's what you want to do, and what the outcome will be in terms of, will this help me out as an athlete or will this hinder me as an athlete? Whatever
Along
that
that
is,
vein, I
you
think
can find it.
there's ways to find that motivation too. It can be outside of racing, but like you're saying, if you feel like it's the same thing day after day and you're lacking motivation, there can be fun different ways to like create your own challenges, right? Like I really wanted to do this 6-hour route, it doesn't fit into my training, but it's like, I'm going to plug that in there and I know it's going to motivate me, kind of thing. Like
Alex
recently,
can do 6-hour routes and not blow up his training. For the rest of us, we may not be that way. I want to throw that out there. Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, it's scalable to anything, right? Like it could be that 2-hour route, or it could be that climb that you wanted to do, but you never had enough time, or whatever it is. I think finding those and plugging them into your training in the off season is important. And I think that's part of the discussion we had around testing. Like that day is fun for me because it's not the norm, it's not like, oh, go do 2x20 and then do some endurance and then do a sweet spot. It's like, just go send it. It's like, all right, let's go. Like there's an excitement to changing it up. And I think we all as athletes get how important laying the groundwork is, and we're willing to do the work, but it's always fun to throw in those challenges or different things for training. Like I've been doing 6-hour rides. It's been new for me, but it's like, I've been finding a fun challenge each time. Like one time I was like, okay, I want to climb 10,000 feet of climbing. So I made a route that does that. Or, I want to try to see if I can do 100 miles. So I made a route for that. And the challenge for me is fun because it brings me somewhere new that I haven't trained before, but also there's something else to look at besides like the time. It's like, oh, like how close am I to 100 miles? And my robotic brain makes it very easy because I was 5.6 miles in, which means I'm 5.6% done. So makes my math nice and easy.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.